everybody. This is Bevin and Biscuit Reynolds. Welcome to my podcast, Bevin, a femme over 40 and her friends podcast. I'm your host, Bevin. I've said my name more than 3 times. It's time to start the show. That's my co-host, Biscuit Reynolds, who doesn't want to be handled anymore. Today, I'm so excited to welcome back to the podcast my dear friend, Colin of Queer Cosmos on Instagram. Colin's IG is a treasure trove of incredible astrological and relational intelligence information, and he's fun, right? Like Britney dancing, Beyonce dancing with information about the current astrology in the skies. Oh, I love it. Colin and I have so much to talk about in this episode, and if you want to get to know Colin's backstory, episode 68 of this podcast is a great one. I'll link it in the show notes. And then episode 96, I got Colin to talk to me about values and setting up values, which was a really good discussion. So highly suggest, if you enjoy this episode, to go back and to listen to those as well. So I know you're like, Bevin, what is the best way to support your podcast? I'm so glad you asked. I'm a Patreon supported artist, meaning everything I do is art. Everything I do is a healing offering to the world. I want to make the world a better place by empowering leaders to get free in their minds and bodies. And I think it takes self-leadership to show up to an aerobics class. I teach aerobics, and I teach aerobics on Zoom. So you can party with me from anywhere in the world. I love that we dance worldwide together. I actually think it's life transforming for you and for me and for the world. And I think the world gets better the more we focus on our joy. And joy is my work product. So I'm literally here to just help you transmute your feelings and cultivate a joy practice that will help you key into what your real desires are in the world, because I think each and every one of us has a code to unlock that literally levels up timelines. It helps us experience a better world together, right? Self-leadership, right? Most people are like, I'm like out of high school. I'm done growing. I'm not going to intentionally grow or get better or learn about different ways to be in the world, right? So you're already killing it just by listening to my podcast. So patreon.com/FKDP. It stands for Fat Kid Dance Party. It's posted in the show notes below. My aerobics class is like nothing else in the whole wide world. If you had told me 10 years ago I'd become an aerobics instructor, I would have laughed. But for 20 something years, I've been working on body liberation, helping the world get free from fat stigma specifically, but also all the other oppressions that land on our body, right? That intersect on our body. So figuring out somehow to teach this stuff and how to get free, and how to teach emotional maturity and resilience and all the things I keep learning, because I am still on the clock with this growing thing. And I intend to grow until the very last day I'm here, because I think that's part of life and how life gets good, right? And I'm here for life to be good. I'm here for a good time, maybe not a long time, but hopefully. And my Patreon page helps to support me do that. So patreon.com/FKDP, if you just think that it's a good world because I'm in it. It's a safe and secure site. I love it so much. We also have some more membership opportunities. So I have on-demand videos. I have a whole on-demand rental library of aerobics classes, plus so much more. Art parties, puff and paint parties. I'm doing a series of like self-care sort of specific tune-ups, right? We're going to do a grief aerobics class. We're going to do like a bedtime routine together. So I'm doing a lot of fun stuff this winter. I'm teaching a lot more on Zoom this winter. So this is a really good time to pop in to the Patreon if you haven't yet. We also have a Discord community. It's like our locker room, our digital locker room. So lots of fun at the Fat Kid Dance Party Patreon universe. But also, if you just want to bless me for the holidays, I have a couple of wish lists down there. And I'm also on my Buy Me a Coffee. They gave me a wish list there. So we're going for a new laptop. I could really use a new MacBook. So also, if you're out there, just someone who really wants to bless me, I have a PO box. Anyway, so all the ways I open to receive. I am literally just someone who has figured out, I was a camp counselor, and now I've figured out my way in the world. I appreciate you. Thanks for being here. And thanks to everybody out there who already supports my Patreon page. I'm so grateful for you. And I'm so grateful to get to learn and heal together. And so now on with the show. This is such a fun conversation with Colin. On this episode, we talk a lot about wounding and how we teach from our wounds and how we work through learning and growing and family and all of the things, rejection, money. I'm excited about this episode, and I'm excited to get on with the show. Thanks, everybody. Colin, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you so much, B. It's an honor to be here. I love just sharing space with you, learning, laughing, just dynamicing with you. It's such a pleasure and an honor. Thank you for having me.
If I could live, laugh, love with one, it would be you, Colin. Colin, you were one of my funnest friends, but truly, like in this lifetime, like especially in the last year, you have just like gone international globetrotting. I am so curious. Would you start the podcast and just give us your elevator pitch about like who you are and what you do in the world?
Sure. Well, thank you. Now I really want to eat pizza and pasta because you're kind of wearing it and you mentioned international globetrotting. So my elevator pitch is, my name is Colin. I'm an astrologer. I have been an astrologer since 2017. I write the weekly horoscopes for Cosmo. I have 3 books that that are out. I will have a television show coming out called Written in the Stars on Discovery Plus. So that's going to be global for your international viewers, US, Europe, Southeast Asia, and elsewhere. So that's my elevator pitch. And I really try to specialize in the astrology of identities and relationships.
You are such an incredible resource in relational intelligence.
Change
your stance. Oh my God. Will you just give people the change your stance spiel? Because that
what do you fucking think of that?
You
tell me first. Go ahead.
It's like the perfect one-liner to remind you of your power in all situations, which is simply to change yourself and how you're interacting with it. Be a thermostat, not a thermometer.
Now I just got the full body Capricorn chills, B. Oh my God, I love it. Yes. And you know what? I just want to acknowledge like how Capricorn that is. So if we could just astrologize this fast. Yeah, I learned that premise. I'm finally advancing my study formally in relational understanding at Relational Life Therapy Institute, founded by Terry Real, licensed marriage and family therapist, Terrence Real. He's one of Esther Perel's advisors, and I really love the way that she esteemed him. And then another clinical psychologist who I love, her name's Dr. Alexandra Solomon. She really elevates his work as well. So does Bell Hooks. In her work about men, The Will to Change, she was constantly referencing Terry. So it's just incredible that like these women who, because frankly I don't learn from men. These women, it's true. I'm like laughing. It's like he's the first male I've like ever learned from. But it just meant so much to me that these women who I admire had nothing but affirmative things to say about him. So yeah, he through his school helped me understand that idea of if you want to change the dance of relating, you have to change your stance. Because one or two things will happen. Either the situation improves or you're just not dancing. And it's very Capricorn, right? Because what does it say? Take 100% ownership for who you are in the space of what's happening. And if you change your stance, you will change the dance. Don't lean into hostile dependence, thinking you have to dance their dance. You're not a small force being moved by larger forces here. So I'm not here for that.
I love everything about that, especially that like you really seek wisdom from women because we should,
God.
The patriarchy is so over. Like we're in age of Aquarius now, divine feminine rising, and it's not divine feminism dominating, it's divine feminine like balancing out all this like hostile masculinity that has been murdering people.
Yeah, and just teaching a new way of relating, and also to liberating men. That's why Bell Hooks kept validating Terry's work, because he was one of the first men to really acknowledge like the patriarchy deliberately denies men intimacy building skills.
And a Scorpio man who has worked on his intimacy building skills is an emotionally safe space that I cannot recommend more.
I love that you clutched your pearls.
Just like when I meet a good man and I find out he's a Scorpio, I'm like, I'm not surprised, and
you're giving me an astrological aha moment, because they're all about the transformation. They're all about acknowledging where systems defect them and how to learn new systems of personal development. So yes, a Scorpio would be the one.
Yes.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I love the sign. I also recently learned that if you have a moon sign in water, it becomes your dominant personality, which kind of explains a lot for me as a Scorpio moon, Capricorn sun.
Ooh, so is the theory, is it just water, Bev, or is it
Theory
all of
is
them?
it's just water because water and moon are so aligned
Oh, I
that it
could see it.
becomes so big. So I'm curious on the street as you encounter it uh, to come back and report. But in this episode, first
I
and
already
foremost,
agree, by
I
the
want
way,
to
because
talk.
I just flashed through
Yeah,
all. I'm sorry, I just flashed
you're
through all
like
of my water
you're
sign,
doing it. Yeah,
water moon friends. I'm like, oh yeah, no, he was totally just a Pisces moon. This bitch is forever a Scorpio moon. This one is so Cancer. I
yeah.
don't care what anybody says. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that validation. Okay, I want to talk about Written in the Stars
Yes.
because I have a lot of community now for not for mysterious reasons, but I have a friend who
I was gonna
started doing
say.
psychic unpacking of the Bachelor franchise. So I've been hotly anticipating the dating show that my friend Colin is on. So please tell me a little bit more
Wow.
about the show.
Yeah, well, way to go for your friend's professional like affiliation to this idea and the way that they want to contribute. I fucking love it.
Look it up
Yes,
on Instagram, reality TV psychic. It's really good. Chris
that's
Tolley
brilliant.
is a genius.
That's brilliant. Kelly is their name?
Chrissy Tolley.
Chrissy Talley. Okay, amazing. So yeah, this actually happened. Speaking of international globe trotting, it really emerged when I was in Italy in January. So this British production company named Bareface, founded by two women, okay, two fire sign women, Lucy and Rosie. They were the ones who approached me and two other astrologers to really develop a television show around dating and astrology. And what they wanted to do, which the obvious isn't always so obvious, is they wanted to really immerse these contestants with individual and relational education and support so that they're not just thrown into the Shark Tank.
Wow, what a great
You know,
idea.
they're right
Equip
again, yeah,
them.
yeah, right. And just like support these fucking poor people. Me too. My God, I need all the education I can get. And so, yeah, it started that way. And all of a sudden, it was ready to go in like 2 seconds. And I've spoken to other like television development things, and I just never really got my hopes up. But what was interesting about this, Bevan, is that it was the first British production company, and they have a different approach. They're not obviously, the paragons of like high quality reality television, Love Island, thank you very much, but they certainly had a different lens on this. Like they thought to bring in a host, they thought to bring in expert, like so that the host, her name's Clara Amfo, she's a BBC One journalist, she's one of the most celebrated voices of British music. Yeah, British journalism, she's amazing. So they thought to bring her in to like have her be the voice for the audience and like be a voice of skepticism. I mean, it was just done so well. And the first couple of weeks, I was a little nervous, right? Because especially in America, like reality TV can go one of many ways, but it often looks like it's a sellout. It often looks like we're kind of not in the highest level of integrity. So I was really deliberate about making sure that we stayed there for them and for this experiment in the integrity. And it unfolded beautifully. There was no drama ridden like gossip. No, it was done so well. I'm so proud of it. And it was incredibly diverse. That's all I can say. But it's really, really, really well done. I'm really happy with it.
I mean, I'm going to be getting a Discovery Plus membership
Oh, please,
just to watch
please.
this. I'm excited.
Well,
Is it an instant drop like all the episodes, or is it
no,
they're keeping it
no.
piece by piece?
Piece by piece, right? Because I know, and that, see, they're just doing everything differently, so they want to do a piece by piece. And yes, please, because they only, I don't think they only did this, but I'm the only American in the whole thing. And because it's dropping in Discovery Plus US, they were like, we really needed an American. So please, I know we don't love identifying as American these days, but please tell Americans like watch this. Otherwise, they might be like, we didn't need him, and I want them to feel like they need me. So anyway, yes, that's what happened, and it was just really, again, it was an experience that benefited me because I was watching these people meet for the first time and move about a relationship sequence, having studied and debated over their charts for months. And then I was watching them on these television screens and coding their behavior from an astrological point of view. I mean, from a research lens, that's incredible. I never would have been able to do that because it would have been multi-million dollars, right? So
Yeah.
it was just, there was so much that I learned, and then they were also really receptive to like what I had to say. And I was like, you know what? I watched this concept be brought up several times. Can we dedicate an entire episode to breaking this down for them? And they were like, yeah, what are you doing in an hour? So like again, I was very nervous because this is my first kind of introduction to television, and I don't want to assume they have my back, right? But they did and do. And so I'm just really happy with that.
That's so exciting.
Thank you, Bevan. Thank you.
Like, I was actually afraid it was a shitty experience for you, which is why I asked
Oh,
before we started talking.
girl, yeah, you were like, before we're recording. How
I
did
know
that
that what The
go?
Bachelor does to people. Like, so it's just, I'm so grateful to hear how
Yes.
wonderful this situation was. Not actually that surprised, because I know that you are drawn to things that are healthy and tonic
Oh,
experiences because you've done so much work on yourself.
oh, Bev, thank you. And I was hoping that. And fortunately, like me and the other astrologers who, I didn't know them that well beforehand. We just kind of all made that pact of like, no matter what, we're going to make sure that we keep things in integrity, that we're helping and providing education on love and spirituality, and that every single person who walks into this house walks away with a little bit more of a loving perception on themselves and other people. We said prayers before every episode started. I mean, yeah, it was just like something really magical was going on. And I can share this too. Like at the end, at the wrap party, a lot of the production would come out and and tell me just how much conversations were going on within their office about what was happening, and that it changed the way they look at their marriages. And I would have had no idea, because you got to be quiet and you're rushing, and who's putting on the microphone, and then I'm out again, and then I got to like I would have had no space to hear this. But most people in production were like, I didn't even know this about relationships. I didn't know this about spirituality. And now I really want to, when I go back home, I really want to apply it. And I was just like, well, that once I knew that, I was like, I'm sorry, because they had no reason to tell me that if it wasn't true. So anyway, I'm going to stop rambling on.
I love your
Because you
rambles.
asked.
They're always full of good nuggets. And
No.
and again, I can't wait to watch it. I'm so glad you were
Oh,
on it.
me too.
And since we have limited time, I'm just going to move right into, let's
Yes.
talk about Chiron.
Yes. I love
Okay.
that you mentioned that. Yes. Tell me why. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, because there was one time I like randomly got picked to be in your IG live. You looked at my chart. You told me your Chiron's in Taurus, so you need to read the book, The Soul of Money. And I read that book, and it was transformative to how I experienced how I experience energy exchange, which in the age of Aquarius, we're moving away from materialism and into the currency of energy. And so,
Oh,
right? And
yes, that's the
also
goal.
like in this pandemic time, I really zoomed out and started seeing the world from more of a like 15,000 year experience, like the humanity. And like the idea of capitalism is so young, and so is
Right.
coloniality, and all of that is young. But
Yes.
like what is
Yes.
true is like wisdom, resource, honoring the earth, honoring ourselves and our own personal gifts. Right. So like the soul of money really like wrapped all of that
Ah,
together.
I'm
Um,
so glad. I'm so glad.
and also, it's Scorpio season. It's time to
Come
talk
on.
about our wounding and like
I
the
know.
lessons we always return to.
And I'm
So,
trying to remember, did you do that during the lunar eclipse workshop or with my Italian astrologer who talked about Chiron? Because I remember
no,
that you were on
I
a
did
hammock,
it on
right?
an IG live. It was really, I was like in my bed, like it was like 8 in the
Yes.
morning or something.
And
And
I
like
pulled you in.
you pulled me in. You were in Italy though, but you were still in Italy.
Oh, so then it was by my, okay, so then it must have
Yeah.
been while I was by myself. Got it. And it was during the new moon in Aquarius, which makes sense as to why I pulled you in. Okay. Do. Got
Oh,
it. I'm trying to situate this. Yes. Okay. And I love it. Like you were in Italy. We heard the church bells. I'm like, oh, I remember now.
in that
Okay.
white apartment.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah.
I'm going back there on December 1st. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. I
Oh, that's
know. I know. Okay.
exciting.
But to Chiron, to
Okay,
Chiron. We
Chiron.
want to talk about Taurus.
Tell us,
Yeah.
what is
So,
Chiron? How do you pronounce
mm,
it correctly? And what does it mean, et cetera, et cetera?
I think it is Chiron, right? I've heard people say Chiron. Say whatever you want. I don't really, whatever.
I don't think you
But
can.
there we go. I learned actually a lot about Chiron through two teachers. So, first one through Christopher Renstrom, who's an American astrologer, a Capricorn astrologer. And honestly, Bevan has done some incredible research on AIDS, Stonewall, and astrology. So yeah, I feel like you would.
Okay.
Christopher is a light. I love him with everything in me. He is
Okay.
incredible. Yeah. So I watched him teach on Chiron at a conference I went to in Denver with Isar, And what I learned, just number one, is that Chiron in, I think it's ancient Greek, if we want to call it that, it meant the hand. Right. Yeah. And so there's this idea of like the hand being the place for helping and like a helping hand, but then the hand being the place for the wound, right? Like who doesn't reach for us, who harms us with these hands. So I thought that imagery was really helpful. And that it really it represents the place where we will forever feel like we haven't quite yet mastered something, and there is a source of pain around that. I literally just had a realization about this a few days ago, and that's why when you had said, no, I really actually value how much you value your family, you just healed my Chiron in Cancer, because my Chiron is in Cancer in the 11th house of friends. So I often feel like when my family's present, I'm not available to my friends. And you were like, go pick up your mother. And even just you like healing that, like you just healed my Chiron, you see? So it's just like, it's incredible. So anyway, it's where we forever feel like we are a work in progress, absolutely. And it's also where we can turn pain into power and tears into triumph. Because I personally would rather learn about finances from someone like you who's like, no, this shit didn't come naturally to me. I don't necessarily want to learn from people who have been blessed into significant financial abundance. I'm sorry, I just don't. That's why I love learning from Lynn and Rachel Rogers. We Should All Be Millionaires, the author of We Should All Be Millionaires. So A Woman's Guide to Wealth Earning. She's incredible. She's an Aquarius, a Black woman from Queens. She went to my college. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to learn from Rachel. But that's what Chiron is this story of like, because I've experienced woundedness here, I think that's what actually makes me the most qualified to help.
Wow.
Does that answer your questions or
wow.
like provide at least a way in?
It's a way in. That my questions are not satisfied yet.
I'm a Capricorn with a Virgo rising. Don't play me, bitch.
And a Scorpio moon, the natural
Come on, I'm
detective
never
of
at
the
the end.
zodiac.
Right.
Okay, so Chiron is a comet, right?
Asteroid.
An asteroid.
Right? Is it an asteroid?
It's moving. It's moving, but it's not quite. It's not a planet, but it's a placement.
Correct.
And so, as the wounded healer, are we always coming back to the same subject matter for lessons? Are we ascending the lessons that we're experiencing with Chiron?
I think it's a little bit of both. It's that, you know, the expression chop wood, carry water.
Chop wood, carry water. No, I don't know that.
Yeah, I just learned it like a few months ago. So basically what it means is that when we work on spiritual awareness or enlightenment, right? The journey without distance from the head to the heart, you know, we're just working on trying to see things with light. Our life changes somewhat, yes, but the real shift is, no, we go back to this set of circumstances, to those lessons, and we're just a little bit different. And we're chopping wood, carrying water. We're just, you know, A Course in Miracles says all life is a set of lessons faithfully rehearsed.
Oof. Yeah.
It's very elliptical, right? And so it's that, yeah, we're going to always go back to this, right? Like, and I'll probably experience it just like you with your Chiron and Taurus. Like, it'll change and it'll evolve, but it'll get deeper because now I have a niece. So now there's even more family commitments, you know? And so there's that. And then also, I think we do improve, but we improve subtly within our circumstances. And it might not seem really observable, but I think we're just meant to keep faithfully rehearsing and applying those lessons.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dr. Brene Brown, a Scorpio.
Who's she?
Okay, so Dr. Brene Brown, a Scorpio, says, when you're teaching, this is like, I think from Daring Greatly, was the first book I picked up from her. And she said, like, when you're, and at the time I was really blogging a lot. And so I really like heard this in terms of blogging, but like, she talks about like when you teach from something you've experienced, you have to teach from the scar, not the wound.
Oh, love it. Love it.
If we're coming back to the same lesson again and again, how do we know when it's a scar versus when it's a wound?
Okay. I think it would be with the understanding that no matter how people respond to this, I'm going to be okay.
Ooh, yes.
No matter, because I know I'm teaching from a wound where I'm like, what will they do? And if they respond in this way, it will deter my healing. No, I'm teaching from a scar where no matter the resonance, no matter the connection, no matter the criticism, I will stay standing. Because my
Mm,
healing is not dependent on how other people perceive this.
amen.
I don't know if that's true, but that's what I'm present to. Yeah.
I have to say some of my biggest work in life is around rejection, and
Oof.
I always wondered if that tied into Chiron and Taurus in any way. Um, because it's just, it feels like it always comes up like again and again. It came up a lot with peers when I was growing up because I felt very rejected because I was fat and I was bullied. And then it came up a lot around dating. And I really wanted to master dating. That's why I had a blog. I just wanted to like learn and remember and teach from it. And dating was really about getting resilient to rejection. And then I started my own company. And then I talked to a venture capitalist guy, and he was like, yeah, you're going to get turned down by like 9 out of 10 investors, or maybe 99 out of 100. Like, and I was like, wow, that's more rejection. But then even in the market, right, it's still rejection, right, if people haven't picked up your idea yet.
Yes.
And so it's like, it feels like I keep hitting that lesson in new ways constantly. So I'm just curious, like,
that's Chiron.
Do you think that comes in Chiron and Taurus, or do you think it's like Chiron? Like, I think it's.
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I don't think that's Taurus. I think that's Scorpio.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, because the high-minded Taurian energy goes, I'm not worried about whether or not they're gonna like it because I know I have something of value. You know? Yeah, they're not worried. I have seen Scorpio though exhibit a level of nervousness or anxiety around anticipatory rejection. That's say no more, right? Look at the way your body just responded. That's what it is. And I my heart is always in empathy with my Scorpio moons on that. But I think it's more that of like, I will, speaking of Dr. Brene Brown, maybe dress rehearse tragedy or live in the wreckage of the future, because in the past, this is where I've experienced such painful rejection. So I never want to experience that again. And I'm not going to put myself out there.
Well, okay, I feel very
and that's not all Scorpios. That's I'm saying that's kind of where we go, where they go when they're challenged. And so with a few days after the solar eclipse in Scorpio, us recording this in Scorpio season, it's the phrase which I love that I heard from a Scorpio, which is, if you want to play, you got to pay. And so you got to pay to play. And so therefore, if you want love, if you want joy, if you want professional success, if you want vitality, you'll see death, shame, heartbreak, and loss. So what? You want to play, you got to pay.
Wow. So, wow.
Sorry.
I just want to let that land. No, that's, never apologize for giving it to me real, Colin. That's all I want from you. I want your authenticity always.
Thank you. Okay, I'll give it to you.
Here's my favorite thing that has helped me a lot with rejection, and I just want to offer this for anyone.
Yeah, share it.
Which is to really decide whose opinion you care about, and then leave everybody else. And like, it's like, it used to be like, oh, I need the whole world to approve of me. And then I realized I just learned enough about niching who you are, and like being who you are, and being willing to offend people who aren't your aligned people, right? So the people that matter to me most are my Patreon supporters. Like, that's what I started performing for, not tap dancing for the haters or my exes on Instagram, but focusing on the people who want to build up my business and build up my work in the world. And like, just a few people who I really esteem their feedback on my life, my therapist, my coach, my mentor, my close friends, and just getting really clear. My therapist had me work on this, like getting really clear about like who has what access to me at what level. And opinion access is really a limited resource for me, because I can't, it hampers my gift to the world when I stay like affected by the opinions of others.
Opinion access. I never heard of that phrase. Did you just fashion that yourself, Miss Thing?
That just came through.
I love it. Yes, and that feels kind of scorpionic as well, because again, the strength, every moon has a strength and a challenge that are so, interwoven and interconnected. But I do believe that Scorpio moons are meant to kind of scan the perimeter and ask, who has earned what access to me at what time? With whom am I safe with? And so in an effort to maintain safety, they're scanning the room for danger. And where there's danger, Scorpio does not want to go too close. So I completely understand that. And also, it is up to Scorpio to say, well, what would happen if I trusted myself and trusted these people to hold the weight of my story or whatever they're experiencing trust with. But I love that you talked about opinion access, because that feels incredibly scorpionic. And the bottom line is, I'm only going to care about your opinion of me to the extent to which I care about you. And if I don't really have a lot of care about who you are, God bless, I'm not really going to integrate jack shit of what the fuck you have to say.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. Okay. Let's come back to your Chiron. So your
okay,
Chiron
yeah. Oh,
is
Jesus.
Cancer.
Yes.
So you experience like a wounding around the attention of family, the experience of family, like how you allocate your time resource to family.
In relationship to my friends, yeah, because my friends are family, because my 11th house is ruled by Cancer. So right, and that's typically why, like, I don't think signs are feminine, but Jessica Liniato, who's a very celebrated Capricorn astrologer, was like, oh, no wonder you only hang out with women. Cancer rules your 11th house. There's this idea, so I'm just like constantly around, influence people around home and family. Cancer influence people around home and family. But I think my Chiron wound is, number one, I moved out of Long Island when I was 16 to the Bible Belt during the Bush administration, and that's when I came out of the closet. And so, yeah, I lived in Charlotte, well, really Indian Trail, North Carolina, for 2 years. And the wound there was, like, I think, having been uprooted from Long Island, which is a very specific and problematic culture too, don't get me wrong, and then thrusted in the middle of a place that could not be more different, was really confusing, right? I felt like the way that I spoke, the way that I enunciated, the way that I moved about the world was just so violent to them. And then on top of that, I was gay and presumably Catholic. Forget it, So, and then so there's that wound around, like, New York, what is home? And I've always been wanting to come back. And I think that's why I go so hard for New York, because I know just how deeply, through that comparative understanding, what New York has done to make me the person I am. And that's not to say that Indian Trail and Charlotte is terrible. I actually loved the South. It was wonderful, but it was really confronting to have people basically accuse me of having mental illness, going to hell, the whole thing. I mean, from the very beginning, and so that was hard. And then I've seen it develop in terms of not perfecting the balance between home, family, and friends. Yeah, because most of my family actually just moved back to New York, Bevan. So my twin sister used to live in the South until April of this year. She moved back to Long Island, filed that under shit I never would have seen coming, ever.
How delightful for you, though.
So
That's so
delightful.
great.
Oh my God, so delightful. So now she's up here with her husband, who I love, and their daughter. Then my mother moved back. So I went, oh yeah, no. So my whole family has moved back to New York
within the past few months.
Yes, since
That's
the first
so
time they left in 2005, when I came out and had that whole experience. So the Chiron wound is like, oh God, like, I love my family. I want to be around them. I want to support them. But my friends have been with me since the beginning, and I want to be really attentive to them too. And it's getting hard, but they've all understood, I think, how my life has changed and how their lives have changed, and what we're doing to find a nice middle ground. So yeah.
Are they living close to your grandma?
They're in New York City, so I'm on Long Island, so I'm an hour east, right?
Yep.
So never too
They're in
far.
actual New York City. They moved from the South to the actual city.
Oh, I thought you met my friends. Excuse me. I didn't know if you met my friends or my twin sister.
I met your twin sister and your mom moving back to Long Island.
No, so
your friends are in New York City. That makes sense.
Yes, friends are in the city. They're never going anywhere. No, so my mom lives with me in my grandmother's house. So we have 3 generations of bad bitches under this roof.
Yes.
Okay. And then my twin sister moved only 10 minutes away.
How
and my brother's here. Like, and I'm blessed to, like, really actually love them and want to spend time with them. Yeah. And because they're around me, I'm not looking at my phone.
No.
I'm not never, hardly ever. So I just feel bad about my reply time to my friends and the following through on the plans. But it's just like, how can I do that when my mom is telling me this, and then my grandmother asks me to pick her up over here, or my niece is just like, Colin, will you play with me? And it's just like, what am I going to do? Tell her, hold on a minute, let me respond to... No, there's people in front of me, and not just people, but family. So anyway, I digress.
No, that's good, because one of the most important communication skills is listening, and part of that is presence. And it's really like, you can't be present with someone if you're attached to your, I call this my love rectangle, and not just because Madonna's face is on it right now, but like, this is where the people I love live in here, and sometimes I get to see them through this, right? But like, also it's love to put it down and be present with the people you're with. And I have to say, as someone who texts you and gets a reply days later, I like it, because I know you're going to respond eventually.
Yo, absolutely.
Right. And like, sometimes texting, for people who are like globetrotting international superstars who have a lot of friends, like sometimes texting is the new email, you know, and it's like, that's just, in, you know, when you actually email Colin, you get a response from an assistant, you know, so like, it's like learning how to communicate with you. And I find safety in just the trust. And like, my friend, I'm going to name drop my friend, because she's going to be on the podcast next.
Yes.
My friend Jess Baker does the same thing with texting. It's like, I'll hear back from her days, weeks later sometimes, but that's just part of how she communicates. And I feel like I'm in partner pre-selection.
Okay.
Just like you, partner pre-selection. Right, but like, you know, so I have more time, but like, I also know when I have a family, I'm going to be present with my family. And like, the thing that I'm really growing through and changing through right now is like organizing my time, instead of just being flowy and going with what my instinct is, which I love being in the flow. But I also know things won't get done if I don't put it in the planner. So
Capricorn sun, okay.
I fight the planner. It's like my big balance between freedom and responsibility. And like, but you know, having family is responsibility, especially when you create a family.
Oh, I can't imagine. I don't know how like parents do it. I'm like, do you guys have friends?
They
like,
don't.
No wonder.
Parents don't. We are so unsupportive of parents and families in this culture that parents
100%.
don't have time. They don't have
100%.
the kind of time to cultivate relationships outside the family unless they really work on it.
I know.
And have a lot of resource. Like your sister having multiple grown-ups around might get a chance to have
she
friends.
can. That's right. Right. And that's what we were realizing too. And that was kind of like a post-COVID awareness, honestly. Bevin was like, wow, we actually do really well when we all live together. You know, like this kind of multi-generational extended system. We do very well in this. And then that's why when my brother-in-law was laid off, my twin sister was like, we actually have nothing keeping us here. And I know damn well that if I move, my parents are coming. So what would it mean for us to go back? And then ever since, it's just opened up a lot of possibility for her as well. Like she went with me to a wedding in Los Angeles that she's never been to the West Coast, but she was able to go because her husband's mother was able to watch it. Like we just come from really big families, and you're absolutely right. Like having people close by as a resource is incredible. And it also helped me look at like Italy very differently. I'm like, oh, no wonder I found this place just like a duck finding water. Like it all made sense. So anyway, yeah.
Oh, I love that. Do you feel like your Chiron in Cancer, like during your partner pre-selection, do you feel like you have nervousness around like creating family with someone? Because you have such a full life.
God help me. You know what it is too? I think it's will he like just integrate himself well into the family, and and I think that's why, like, and I don't know if this is a pattern or if this is a preference or this is something to pay attention to, yada yada, but the boys who have met my family are typically Long Island boys. Of course, you know, he just knows how to roll with the punches. Or Jersey, what's the difference, you know? But
a little different, enough different to make it interesting, but like all the right things are the same.
Exactly, you know, so he would always go, all right, hun, and I would know exactly what he meant, you know. So I'm more nervous about like, will he be able to understand the humor? Will I be able to stand his humor? And it's more so like, oh God, should I date another New Yorker, or should I expand my horizons a little bit? I'm open, but just my subconscious mind like doesn't let me get too far with them. I've tried. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question whatsoever.
It does, because you're in the midst of it, and I'll catch you in like 5-10 years and ask you the same question, and we'll have it more fleshed out with more.
Yeah, well, maybe because I could be with a boy I grew up with, or like a boy who's from the Bronx, you know, and I'll just be like, see, this is what I'm talking about. He knows what I mean.
But then there's also boys from across the world who have strong cultures that understand and value family in that way too.
Yes, because I did date an Italian boy when I was there, and I saw that Bevin's face. And
What
I
was
saw
his
that
name? Was it really Italian?
oh my, yeah, I'll say his name. Camilo.
Camilo.
Oh my God. Camilo Francisco Maria Barone. I swear to God, that was his name. I was like, and then he was so Italian, Bevin, that he was like, oh yeah, you want to come over and like meet my sister and a few friends? And I'm like, yeah. So I'm thinking at most 7 people. Guess how many people were in a 1-bedroom apartment in Rome? Take a wild guess.
30?
25.
25. That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. And it turned into, I thought I was just meeting his sister.
Yeah.
And like named Diletta, of course. So I just thought I was meeting his sister and like her friends, yada, yada. And 25 people were there and I had 7 pizzas in my hand. But it was so beautiful. I know. Right?
Yeah.
And they were all like, they were everything that I love about the country, warm and kind and sweet and nice. And they were absolutely fantastic. I loved every second of it. Yeah. So I kind of saw, but as an Italian American, maybe it's just a through line, right? But also, who knows? Yeah, maybe as long as I have a partner who shares that context. Well, and I've dated a Jewish boy. It's the same fucking thing. The food's just different.
Yeah.
We joke about that.
I mean, the food oh my God, has your family ever broken a table from putting so much food on it?
Not yet, but that's incredibly Italian. I don't know.
My favorite question to ask anyone who's Italian American from Long Island.
Have you broken a table?
Have you broken a table at a holiday before?
Then you know what? I see, and this is where I'm going to make fun of my grandmother. I'm going to tell her, until or unless it is, then we're not really Italian. And I'm going to tell her that through and through. But funny context about that. This is so random, but we just saw this yesterday. Because she was raised by parents who were very much only a few years out of the Depression, my grandmother still makes food portions, I think, thinking it's 1934.
Oh, that's real.
Ancestral trauma. Hello. Yeah, not to be so Scorpio moon, but like
every time I see a bread tab, my grandmother, like when every time I would go to her house, she would have 2 cups full of bread tabs, like the tabs that close the bread bag, as though you need one, and now every time I throw it away, I think of her, because that was part of, I mean, she had so much depression trauma, like, and so much work, like, it's just deep in, and it's you can, the sufficiency, a concept from the Soul of Money. Sufficiency. What is sufficient? I like when I think it took me forever to have the feeling tone of abundance. I would have all these meditations telling me, feel enough, feel like all needs met, and I'm like, what does that feel like?
I know. Yeah.
Right. But like really, and I remember the first moment I ever really felt abundance and sufficiency, and like I was like, wow. And it was just like it was finally a meditation where it clicked, right? And like,
oh wow.
But like allowing the feeling tone to change in your body and releasing those old fears and those old limitations. This woman should be providing a table breaking story for your family.
My mother would, because I'm telling you right now, if she had it her way, I would eat morning, noon, and night. I'm like, Mom, I like need a minute. I'm like, I'm not hungry right now. No, I'm worried about, and then she immediately goes into, I'm worried about you.
I want to go to your house during Sagittarius season and feast.
Bevin, please. And you know what? Especially, I think my sister would make enough to break the table, and you would just have a personality that would fit right in. Like you really would. You're larger than life. You're so warm. You're so sweet. You're so funny. My family would unravel at the sight of you, especially my mother, because she's pissed that we don't have enough Capricorns in our family, and she wants her polar opposite sign in the family.
Oh, I love that. I wish my mom felt that way. She's a Cancer.
She's
surrounded by Capricorns, my grandmother and me. And then every maternal grandmother before that, all Capricorn women, as far as we know.
Well, and if I can, because I don't know if we really dived into this in the other episodes, but like when you think of what it means to stand in the power of Capricorn, Bevin, what comes up for you?
It's always the image of the iceberg and the mountain above the iceberg and the goat. So like people talk about Capricorn as the goat climbing the mountain, but it's the sea goat, because it also goes to the bottom of the sea. And since I have a Scorpio moon and Scorpio rules the depths of the ocean, I feel like I'm Capricorn and then some, you know what I mean? Like, and Capricorn will just like go to the deep with you. And we get the kind of cold heart sort of zodiac sort of trope, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think it's just because Capricorn is really discerning and isn't just like slutting around and like giving your heart to everyone. It's like a discerning, like, who am I going to express myself emotionally with? And especially like if you have a Capricorn who doesn't have water in the chart, and it's like, or maybe Capricorn with fire and like kind of mean, you know, like,
oh yeah, it comes across with its
yeah,
own.
it comes across really mean. But Capricorn is very deep, and you just got to like be patient and connect and like show how trustworthy you are, and then you will get like the depths and the commitment, because there's a commitment to being a goat climbing a mountain.
Okay.
Another thing I learned from my friend Drea, who's an astrologer, she said, like, when you're a Capricorn, you got to sit on the mountain and turn around and look at how far you climbed instead of continuing your focus on like the heights you haven't hit yet. Because that's a real thing I fall into all the time, which is like, I'm not where I want to be, but like, look at how far I've come.
Right. Hello. You know, right. You've come so far. And then it's important to stop and enjoy the view. Yeah. 100. And that is hard for the Capricorn. Yeah. I was writing a horoscope today, which I didn't finish. I'll do it when I fucking feel like it. And I was like getting into the sound of Capricorn, and it was I was listening to this ASMR of a grandfather clock and a fireplace burning, and it was just perfect. Look at you. It's all I needed. And I was typing. I was like, yes, yes, yes. It just sounded so beautiful. And then I don't love the British monarchy, but I love to watch The Crown for visual references of Capricorn.
Full same. Okay. I don't love the monarchy, but I do love The Crown and the storytelling. And
there's
how
a big
Elizabeth
difference.
took responsibility. In my responsibility freedom Libra time, I binge watched The Crown because I was like, how did this woman take so much responsibility? Because she really believed in the responsibility she took on. And I want to have an Elizabethan era where I take on the responsibility of like my children, right? And like all the things coming for me, right? So like, how can I be more Elizabethan? But the clock thing, I'm glad you brought that up, because my next podcast cover is going to be me either behind a grandfather clock or like in old Buckingham Palace clocks or like watches or something like that, because I don't believe in time, right? No. But like I like fancy things, and so I kind of love the idea of just being covered in clocks and watches. Okay.
And you know, Capricorn is ruled by the divinity of time.
No,
yeah. So, because Saturn and Cronus were the same divinity, and where do we get chronological from? And so, I don't believe in time either, in the way that the world defines it, right? But I do believe that Capricorn knows when it is time. There is a sense of Capricorn, and you mentioned the discernment piece, right? And what's interesting about us talking about this now is Pluto is finishing up its tour of Capricorn, where it's been since 2007. So Capricorn energy has been highly reviewed and ultimately alchemized by presumably the most powerful planet in the astrological system we have. And then it enters Aquarius, and then it's up for it. And then Aquarius has it for 17, 18 years. I don't even know the exact amount. But I want us to just know that we ought to be thinking about time and discernment, and maybe even discipline, right? The same root word, pretty differently from now until next March. Yeah.
Wow. I love that. Time, discernment. Okay, Colin, just to wrap things up a little bit. I know.
No, I'm going to tell my mom take an Uber.
No, go pick up your mom. It's an act of service. It's a form of love. And also, you know, you're not always in town. Sometimes you're in Italy.
Good point. And she's going to be without me for a while. So you know what? She'll live. Okay. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about how someone can like review their chart. Like you look up your birth chart. I always like astro.com because Lois Rodney was my grandmother's astrologer. So I'm going to always
plug them. Wow. Okay.
Cool. She bragged about it all the time, and it didn't matter to me until I finally got into astrology, and then I was like, "Oh my God, Lois Rodden!" Like,
wow. And look at you now. You're surrounded by them. Family dynamics, right? It's unbelievable.
Oh my God, it's so astro.com, you can put in your birth chart info and find even if you don't know the time you were born, you can still find your Chiron. So what should people look at to like kind of discern like maybe how they can heal and work with their lessons in the wounding?
Yeah, well, I would probably just acknowledge that it's not, it's not linear, right? Like that's what kept coming up while we were talking about it. There are like Saturn systems are very linear, Chiron systems are not. And so it is that, elliptical circular energy. So once you understand your Chiron, I think also too, what it could do is set us free from the entitlement that like we need happy, happy, joy, joy all the time. You know, life is hard and life can provide anguish and heartbreak and disappointment and rejection and pain and grief and death and dying, right? And so how do we experience that? Maybe Chiron could also help us just sort of like not be so afraid of the inevitable, you know? And then my Italian astrologer, Anna Estronzi, really helped me understand that like Chiron symbolism is also the key. It looks like a key, right? And so,
Yes.
yeah. So what is it the key to? Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I would have them, you know, the students who are interested in learning about Chiron understand that, but then also know that like I think Chiron is holding this incredibly vibrant conversation right now about trauma treatment and reclaiming security, right? But which is necessary, but it's not sufficient. The sufficiency piece for Chiron is trauma recovery, not just trauma treatment. Put the cast on the broken bone, but then ultimately take the cast off. It's starting to stink. So it's a matter of Capricorn, sorry. It's a matter of like holding both. Like, you know, and I see a lot of people think that that precondition is all they have to do. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, it's not. We want to push you a little bit further and understand that like you're going to have some treatment and some healing around this, but also we want to get you to recovery and we want to get you to resilience.
Resilience. What a beautiful place to be in.
Yeah.
When you were formerly triggered by something and now you can just meet it in your chill and be like, huh, okay, release.
And you know what? That's a Capricorn moment in life.
Yeah.
100%. And one of my friends, Dawn Harrison, she's an incredible astrologer. She talks about how like in every Capricorn transit there is a mountain to climb. And I don't think there is a greater mountain to climb than regulating our stress response.
I can't wait. It's the most important thing I'm going to teach my kids. The first 7 years of their lives is how do you just regulate? How do you have feelings and regulate them? You know, like I have a lot of feelings and I'm really good at regulating now. But
yes, Capricorn mom.
I know, but I live alone now. So like what's going to happen when there's people around? I'm going to breathe. Breathe a lot. Colin, when does Written in the Stars debut?
November 28th on Discovery Plus worldwide.
Can't wait.
Me
Find
too.
Colin, Queer Cosmos on Instagram. Lots of great lives. Always worth an hour of my time to watch.
Thank you, Bevan. Thank you so much. And let me just hold on. Let me just fucking acknowledge you for a minute here. Okay. You are an incredibly supportive, engaged, loving, loyal friend. And I think what I love about Saturn Aquarius is it doesn't make me want to use the word internet friend anymore. Like I do count you as a friend, despite the weirdness that I have not even met you in person yet. And so I just want to acknowledge how much I see the way that you elevate and support and engage with me and my work and my friends and my colleagues. It's incredibly meaningful to me. I never take it for granted. I really don't. So thank you for the time that you've spent virtually in some of these ideas and in these lives, and just your willingness to have receptivity and to make the time and space to continue this work with me. It's incredibly meaningful. And if I could, I'd give you a really big hug.
Oh, let's do internet hugs.
Internet hug.
I love you so much, Colin.
I love you. I love you, Capricorn Queen.
Yes. Yes.